and this is a matchup that Trigger has been excelling in quite well recently. Over the past couple of weeks, he was able to take down Max Pax and take down Estrella as well, so some pretty impressive feats. And here we go, spawning in the top left-hand corner of Dragon Scales. We have the Canadian Protoss player representing Team Basilisk. It is Trigger. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Taiwanese Protoss player representing Starlight Twinkle. It is Nice. We go. Likewise, Nice, the best Protoss player in all of Taiwan. And I believe this is a bit of a rematch as well. In the last Tenacious Turtle Tussle, Nice and Trigger did face off as well. Again, they are becoming regulars here in our tournament series. It's great to see them. Great to see them week after week. Boy. And we'll see if Nice can get his revenge, as he did fall to Trigger a couple of weeks ago. For the time being, we do see a pretty different opener as well. Nice is going for a gate expand. Very standard play here on Dragon Scales. Because there's a ramp going into the natural, Nice is going for a more economic opener. Meanwhile, Trigger going against the grain here. He's going for a double gate opener instead. Very aggressive here, despite the defensive capabilities on Dragon Scales. Oh boy, so we'll see how Nice reacts. Nice, he did go for a probe scout, so he knows that Trigger has the potential to be very aggressive. So Nice, he has to make a choice. Does he slow down his own Nexus and throw down a second gateway and throw down like a Stargate or something and be safer? Or does he commit and, yeah, he goes for the gate expand. Oh boy. So Nice is going to be taking the role of the defender. Trigger will be taking the role of the aggressor. As the probe does dip back in, and Trigger confirms, okay, you did delay your tech, you're going for a faster Nexus, you're going to have a better economy. Here we go. Adepts are on the way. Yeah, 2 Adepts do one-shot workers, so Trigger is looking to be, again, aggressive here at the start of the game. Back at home, Nice, he is down in production. We have a Stalker on the way. Hopefully he can wall off in time. That's also what makes this a little bit awkward, is the wall here at the natural base is a lot wider, a little more open. Can be a little bit more awkward to wall off in time against the initial Adepts if Nice isn't aware. If he isn't aware. Here we go, the Adepts are moving on out. Nexus is being taken. So Trigger isn't going all in. He is currently behind economically because of how late his Nexus is. And, oh, Nice. I believe this is a full wall off. Very safe play out of Nice. He doesn't want to deal with all this nonsense about like throwing down pylons and cancelling and throwing down shield batteries and cancelling. Nah, just full wall off. There's no way in for these Adepts. They cannot touch that mineral line. Behind this, Nice throwing down a safety shield battery as well. This shield battery tells us that Nice is getting ready for a Stargate opener to make sure that Oracles don't do any damage. We can see that Nice wasn't able to really see the follow-up, as Trigger is going for a Twilight Council and for a Forge. Of course, Trigger is, Nice is still unaware, so he's going for the Hallucinated Scout. With this, he should get eyes on the tech here of his opponent. Should be able to figure out what is going on. As Nice is going for a Robo first. Interesting. So with this, straight up Nice should have a smaller army, of course, with less Stalkers. As he does confirm the Twilight Council, Nice can get into faster Immortal production to help make up for his Stalker deficit. Immortals will help out with that. There we go. Forge is on the way. Twilight Council as well. Eventually, Nice is going to be working towards something like Blink. I say something like Blink. I'm remembering the last time we casted Nice versus Trigger, it was on Royal Blood. It was on Royal Blood, and I want to say that Nice actually skipped Blink and he went Charge instead. He went for like a really weird army composition. It was actually really fun. I remember now. I was on Royal Blood. He went to the late game. Trigger went Blink Stalker Disruptor, and Nice went Charge Archon Phoenix instead with Colossus. It was crazy. And because Nice had mass Phoenixes, he just kept picking up and denying the Purification Novas of all the Disruptors. It was really cool to see. was a really dynamic matchup. Alas, this time we're going back into Blink as well, so Nice is going to be attempting to keep up here with Trigger's tech, I should say. Blinkstalker versus Blinkstalker. Now, because Nice is walled off on 2 bases, Trigger can take advantage of this, and even though he had a much later natural, and Trigger is behind worker-wise, he can make up for that with a faster 3rd base, because he knows that the 3rd of Nice is going to be delayed. Oh, let's go. Meanwhile, I'm curious if Nice is even thinking about a 3rd base. He goes for a Gateway Explosion. Nice. He actually powered up the Warp Prism. He sieged up the Warp Prism. He had a probe in the prism itself, and he threw down the Dark Shrine. No pylon is needed. Proxy Dark Shrine out on the map. Ay, ay, ay. Nice, you're being so cheeky. Meanwhile, the wall goes down. Adepts are shading in. Oof. Looks like they get 1 probe kill here at the Gas Geyser. Dark Shrine is about to finish up. And immediately we can warp in those DTs. Ay, ay, ay. And we do have a robo, thankfully. Do we have any detection? Yes, Trigger does have an observer with his main army, so DTs should not end the game. Trigger should be able to keep up with them and eventually clean them up. But we'll see how much damage they get done before that happens. Here we go. 3 DTs are on the way. Alright, being sent in. Back at home, Nice. Of course, working on his immortal production, working on his 3rd base. DTs are spreading out in between all the bases. First DT goes down instantly. We'll see how much more damage gets done. 5 probes already go down. Can we get a 6th? Oh! DT in the natural goes down. We do get a 6th and a 7th, soon to be an 8th probe here in the main. A good amount of damage is being done at the same time as Trigger gets pulled out of position. The Stalkers do push forward towards the 3rd. They don't get too much done. Trigger is able to keep up. And this wasn't too bad. Like, Trigger, he may have lost a lot of workers. Yes, he lost 7 probes, but he has a 3rd base. He has a faster 3rd base, so we can make and chrono 3 probes at a time. Likewise, that was 3 adepts. 3 DTs. 3 DTs for 7 probes. Like, again, that's not really the best trade that Nice wanted. Not the trade that he was looking for. So Nice does have a pretty big worker lead, but that lead should close. The gap should close. This Trigger is just pumping out all those probes. Across the map, Nice working on a Templar Archives, working on Archons. Charge on the way as well. And yeah, things are going to be settling down here. I guess we should be taking stock of kind of the game state outside of just the economic game state. Trigger, he's got +2 to his name, but we can see Nice is about to catch up. He's about to catch up with +2 of his own in a couple of seconds. He's chronoing it out as best he can. Archons, Immortals are also in the mix, so Nice is a very complex army. Trigger, with Mass Stalkers, has a more mobile army. Here we go, his army does get spotted by the hallucination. Nice, can he keep up here with the army movement of Trigger? Oh, as Trigger, he can just go straight into the natural. Okay. Doesn't go for it. We have a couple of reinforcements. Nice, looking to dive on this army. Again, with these Immortals, with these Archons, he does pack quite a punch. Takes down the Prism as well. A good start here for Nice. He is bleeding out a lot of these Zealots. But likewise, Trigger cannot reinforce. Nice, just taking a better position here on top of the ramp. Trigger's gonna have to try to rotate around, find another angle of attack. +3 is on the way for our Canadian Protoss. Prism is exposed and it goes down as well for Nice. Both players losing their Prisms. Observer does go down. We can still mix in a couple of DTs. It is possible here for Nice. Again, his army is just so dense and so beefy with these Immortals. Reinforcements are coming from across the map. Nice, looking for a way into the natural. Good snipe there from Trigger. He takes down 2 of those Immortals. But he bleeds out a lot of Stalkers. Trigger down to 17 Stalkers. Pretty comparable Stalker count to his opponent. Even Immortal count as well. Good blinks. Taking down an Archon. Nice. It feels like he's losing just a little bit too much. With the Zealots coming in as well. Trigger, he has the better Concave. He takes down the Archons. Oh my god. Just barely nice to save it. Squeezing in. He's squeezing out as many reinforcements as he can. Nice is pretty committed with this. He doesn't have +3. Trigger does. It's more than halfway done at this point. Nice is looking to end the game with this push. Meanwhile, the longer this goes on, the better it's going to be for Trigger. He does have a better worker count. He has that +3. Almost done. He just needs to hold on. Another Immortal is coming out. Yeah, I feel like Nicey just lost a little bit too much too quickly. Earlier when he lost both of his Immortals, when he lost his Archons as well, up until that point it looked like Nice was going to be able to overwhelm and overpower Trigger, but alas, again, Nice losing too much, being forced all the way back. And in 10 seconds, +3 is going to kick in. The Immortal of Trigger is going to be going down, but he has the higher Stalker count. Well, as I say that, up. It's going to be close. We have reinforcements. Nice has the better Concave. But he still hasn't touched any of these bases. Hasn't touched the economy. Yeah, we blink on forward with the defender's advantage. Trigger now takes the Stalker lead, and Nice has a run at his team. 6 probes go down, which is okay. We had to pull the boys earlier, but GG gets called. Trigger will take game number 1. GG. And that was, again, pretty intense. The initial push from Nice when he had his Immortals, when he had, I think he had 3 Immortals and I want to say almost up to 4 Archons as well. He had so much potential with that push, but we saw Trigger was so decisive. There was that move in between the bases where Trigger, he just blinked on top of the army, immediately focused down 2 of those Immortals, and just like that, the wind was kind of taken out of the sails of Nice. That was like the backbone of his army. That was the most threatening thing here to Trigger, and without it, Nice just couldn't keep on going. Couldn't keep up. GG, well played. Trigger does take the first game, and it's a best of 3. It is a best of 3. One more game, and Trigger will advance on to the grand finals. Nice needs to win this game to force the ace match to bring it all the way to game number 3. Let's go. Is this being played live? This is a replay cast. I think you can see on the title of the stream, replay cast, replay cast. Let's see, we go. It's a replay cast of matches that were played earlier today. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner of Altitude, we have the Canadian Pro Tours player representing Team Basilisk, up 1-0 in this best of 3 series. It is Trigger. And spawning in the top right-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the Taiwanese Pro Tours player representing Starlight Twinkle. It is Nice. Here we go once again. I noticed this over the weekend on Saturday. It's still the weekend, I guess, technically. But I noticed Trigger versus Estrella. Likewise, Trigger, he was very fond of these 2-gate openers. Really interesting stuff here. On Altitude, Nice, he's going for a gate expand once again. Likewise, Trigger, just like the last game, setting up for a 2-gate opener. Very interesting. It's interesting that Trigger, he's willing to put himself behind economically and play out a standard game. It shows how confident he is as well to believe that he can eventually equalize and make up for that economic deficit. So this is just a really safe way to play. Insanely safe way to play. As Nice does go for a probe scout across the map, he once again confirms the 2-gate opener of his opponent. He's aware of what Trigger is up to. And at this time, Trigger is annoying enough to force out that first Zealot. There is that Nexus. Oh, so some wasted resources this time from Nice. If you remember, in the last game, Nice, he was able to cancel his Zealot and make that Nexus without too much issue. But here, Trigger, he didn't even throw down a pylon. He didn't even throw down a pylon, and the Zealot was forced out, so... a good start here by Trigger. Good start. Forcing out that additional unit. Across the map, we can see Nice throwing down a proxy pylon of his own. The goal here from Nice is to get a read on what the first 2 units are going to be. If you remember last game, it was 2 Adepts. This time, it's going to be 2 Stalkers. Trigger just opting to go for a later expansion. Now, even though he has a later expansion, he has a larger Stalker count. And because he has 2 gateways. So 2 Stalkers are going to be moving out. They can apply pressure here on the front lines. Nice, he didn't see what the first 2 units were going to be, so he throws down a full wall off. He throws down a gateway. Making sure that Adepts don't shade in, but again, there are no Adepts. And now Trigger has, now Nice has to be very careful with how he dances with these units. Pylon is under threat, but a shield battery is on the way. Once the shield battery finishes, he should be able to swat this army away. Zealot does waddle across the map. Shield battery finishes, and Trigger will respect it. He will back off. Oh, this is... the tickle beam, the sentry, the kiting. The stutter stepping. They do take down the Zealots. And at least Nice confirms that it's going to be a double sentry follow-up. This is a very safe follow-up from Trigger. This does mean that he has plenty of hallucinations to work with to try and scout and make sure that there's no hidden tech. We can see there is. Stalkers were in position. Hallucination does get into the main base, and it looks like the Twilight Council is going to be spotted. But what Trigger doesn't see is the proxy. We have a Stargate. Oh my god, Trigger is making his way towards the bottom right-hand corner of the map. I think he's going to run out before he can get there, though. It's going to be close. Oh. Ooh. Hallucination does run out. Proxy has not been spotted. At the same time, a couple of Adepts do shade into the natural base. Probes are going down. Trigger, he already had a worker disadvantage. 4 more probes do fall. Nice, chronoing out this Oracle. And the problem is that Trigger has no reason to have a shield battery. Trigger has no reason to have a shield battery in any of his mineral lines. He has no reason to have his army back at home either. So this Oracle, it can do a lot of damage. This Trigger is moving out, just establishing his 3rd base. Oh, nice. He's actually going to be banking up and waiting for the 2nd Oracle, and that is going to give the opportunity here for Trigger to scout. Doesn't... He barely does not come across the proxy. He barely doesn't see it. This is a risky move out of Nice to wait for the 2nd Oracle. But we'll see if it pays off. Meanwhile, back at home, Nice is working on his own 3rd base. I believe a little bit later. Yeah, a little bit later compared to Trigger's. Working on Blink, gateways, no Forge. Trigger will have his upgrade advantage with that Forge with +1. So very similar to the previous game where Trigger, he just had better Stalkers for a while. There were these windows, these moments where he just had the better army. We're not waiting for a 3rd Oracle, are we? Oh yeah. What's going on, Pappy? Alright, here we go. So Nice, he plans to distract the main army with his Stalkers, create an opening here for the Oracles, just in case units were left behind. Here we go. Trigger is going to get distracted. He's being pulled away over towards his 3rd. The Oracles, they dive in. They can one-shot workers. A little bit of miscontrol there. A bit of an A move. Does waste some energy on the Stalker, and we warp in another Stalker in the main base. Too many shots went off, and there was a lot of potential with this aggression, but only 5 probes go down. 5 probes for 1 Oracle. Not worth it here for Nice. Well, so much potential too. So much potential, but the target firing wasn't quite there. Oh, and losing that first Oracle was brutal. Now, to be fair, Nice does have a worker lead, sure. But because he invested into this proxy Stargate, it means that his Forge is late. It means that he's behind in the upgrades. It means that, yeah, Trigger, he has these timings available to him. He's working on +2. Likewise, the army of Trigger is also larger as well. He has the higher Stalker count. Nice, once again, taking up into a Templar Archives, into charge, into Archons. And both players are going to be settling down. We're going to be calming down from here. Trigger setting up defensively with these cannons and shield batteries. I mean, I don't blame him. We saw DTs earlier, so it makes sense for, yeah, Trigger. He's just investing in cannons in his mineral lines, making sure he's safe. Doesn't want to get killed by the Invisible Man. As we do see Nice getting ready for a drop into the main base. Main army as well. Getting ready to push into the third. This revelation, Nice does see the Stalkers, and it looks like he wants to try to pull the Stalkers into the main, if possible. Here we go, we do get the drop into the main base of Stalkers. Oh, they do spot the main army of Nice. Damage is being done. Zealots are going for the pylons as well. You see Nice trying to split up his army. Oh, but we have so many shield batteries. We have 4 shield batteries. Oh my god. We have an overcharge as well. Trigger, he holds onto his third base. Does lose 3 probes in the main. Gets a couple of buildings depowered. But +2 is done. +2 is done. The prism goes down. Trigger, he holds onto his main base. Without too much issue. Nice is forced back. Again, he is catching up. You know, +2. Halfway done here for Nice. And thankfully, Nice didn't overcommit. He lost his Prism, he lost Zealots, but he didn't lose his Stalker army. He was, you know, very respectful of this position here of Trigger. Once he saw those shield batteries, once he saw the overcharge, he just backed off entirely. So thankfully, Nice didn't lose too much in that fight. We do have a 4th base on the way. Do have that 4th. Immortal production is commencing as well, which I think is pretty smart. We saw how well the Immortals were working out for Nice in game number 1, especially against the mass Blink Stalker army of his opponent. So yeah, just investing into some Immortals, maybe going towards Disruptors as well. Taking up in a different direction. And how about Nice? He actually has a massive Zealot army. It's insane. He's got 28 Zealots. So the way this dynamic works in PvP is that Zealots, they're amazing at closing the gap, and they're also amazing at just tanking Stalker shots. Stalkers, they don't have the highest rate of fire, so Zealots can just do an amazing job at just like tanking shots and help supporting the Archons, the Immortals, the Stalker army of your own as well. Again, it's all about the angle of attack. So far, the choke point is looking decent here from Trigger. He does pull back to the safety of his shield batteries, does force the overcharge. A little bit premature with that overcharge, but regardless, Trigger does hold. It's pushing on forward again, going to be kiting well against these Zealots. God, bro, there are so many more Zealots behind this. The Immortal is exposed. The Immortal goes down. But the concave from Trigger is still looking good. Trigger up to 43 Stalkers. Mass Stalker here from Trigger. And without a high enough Immortal count, without Disruptors, without Stalkers of your own, see if Nice can fight against this. Again, he's got a decent concave, forcing back the army of Trigger. Just warping in another wave. And over time, that massive Zealot army that we saw earlier, it's not there anymore. The Zealots are being shaved off. The Zealots are all going down, and once they go down, then Trigger can start focusing down the Archons, the Immortals, the units that matter. There it is, the first Archon already goes down. The second Archon as well. Nice, he's just bleeding out far too much. Just ramming his head against a brick wall, and after that, what did Trigger even lose? A handful of Stalkers that he's just replacing. We could end up in a weird base trade. Both armies completely miss each other. Trigger, he goes for the recall. He's turning back around. He knows that the base trade is probably the best chance that Nice has at winning this game. We do have another overcharge. The Immortals are doing a lot of damage here. Nice breaking on through, but the boys are being pulled. The reinforcements show up, and we can focus down every one of those Immortals. Nice, he's getting a lot of probe damage, but he can't deal with the main army. We blink on forward, and Trigger should be able to clean everything up. Oof. Even takes down the Prism. We're going to be able to save a handful of Stalkers to do recall back home. Again, Nice, he has a better economy. He has a higher worker count, but it's about the army. It's about the standing army. Nice, he's down to 10 Stalkers. He has a third of the Stalker count of his opponent. Trigger, he just avoids the third base, goes straight into the main. Immortal is going to come out in time, but doesn't live too long. Boys are being pulled, even with these boys, even with these Stalkers. I do feel like Trigger just has too much. He avoids this around, blinks away. And he's taking control of the natural. GG gets called. Trigger takes game number 2 and the series 2-0. GG, well played. Much more dominant performance here in game number 2. There was potential from Nice. There was definitely potential with his proxy Stargate. It was crazy that it went unscattered. It went unscattered for so long. But when we saw the Oracles come into play, they were a little bit lackluster. Like there was a lot of potential for them to do damage, and they just didn't do enough. From there as well, some of the engagements were maybe a little bit questionable from Nice, trying to force the issue with his mass Zealot army, but it just didn't feel like he had enough behind it, whether it was enough Archons or Immortals to really benefit from having such a large buffer force. He didn't have the DPS behind it to really take advantage of it, it felt like. Regardless, GG, well played. Very well played here by Trigger, taking down 2 big names, taking down Silky as well as Nice, as Trigger advances on to the Grand Finals. And we're going to be taking a moment here to have a look at the lower bracket finals instead. We're going to be featuring a player that we haven't seen yet. Pretty excited. It is going to be a Zerg player. Nice, he gets knocked down to face off against Casimir.